Senator from Alaska.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I want to come down and make a few remarks on a couple important topics. But I wanted to begin by just letting the American people know, my constituents back home in Alaska, what just happened here just a couple minutes ago on the Senate floor. We voted again to fund the Department of Homeland Security. And Mr. President, I'm down here like a lot of senators. By the way, bipartisan Senate vote to fund Homeland Security, but it didn't pass. And I've kind of moved through my anger phase more to my sadness phase with my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. This is the fourth time that we have come down to the Senate floor to vote on a bipartisan, bicameral agreement. The House and the Senate got together several weeks ago. Democrats and Republicans agreed to fund the Department of Homeland Security. The House passed the bill, bipartisan, by the way. The agreed bill was going to come over here. It did come over here. And all of a sudden, my Democratic colleagues on the other side of the aisle, not all of them, Senator Fetterman has been voting with us, said, you know what, we're not going to keep that promise. We're going to not fund Homeland Security. Now, Mr. President, it's really frustrating because they're saying, well, they don't want to do it now because they want to reform ICE. Now, I'm a little skeptical of that claim because the White House and Republicans in the Senate have been waiting for weeks for any proposal from the Democrats on their reforming ICE. The White House and others have put forward, hey, here's our proposals. They haven't responded once. So if they want to reform ICE, they should at least give people in the administration or in the Congress here on the Republican side their ideas for reforming ICE. They haven't. It's been weeks. By the way, the press is not reporting that. I wish they would, because it's very bad faith when you're not negotiating at all. It's one thing to be far apart on, hey, I have this proposal, you have this proposal. They haven't put forward one proposal. So in the meantime, when we have a very dangerous world out there, we've been briefed in classified hearings that we should anticipate the Iranian Quds force, lead terrorist organization in Iran, is looking for attacks in our homeland, and they won't fund Homeland Security. Now, Mr. President, one of the things that I'm a little concerned about is that this is kind of from the old Biden Majority Leader Schumer playbook to defund the police and have open borders. Now, what do I mean? We know during the Biden administration, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, many of them, and certainly the Biden administration, they had as policies, we're going to defund law enforcement and we're going to have open borders. That's what they did. 11 million people illegally came into our country during the 4 years of Joe Biden. And they also knew that the American people did not like those policies. I think that was clear in the 2024 election. But here's the thing, Mr. President, the far left of the Democratic Party is still committed to these policies. So essentially, when you look at what's going on right now, it's back to the future. It's defund the police and open borders 2.0. What am I talking about? Right now, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are saying they will not fund ICE. That's a law enforcement agency that helps protect us. And they're also saying they will not fund Customs and Border Patrol. That's the agency that controls the border. It's defund the police, defund law enforcement, and open borders. Once again, they're trying to do it kind of in a backdoor way. But the American people are noticing, Mr. President, and it's a frustration. The Democratic leader used to oppose shutdowns. As a matter of fact, when we were in the minority here, President Biden was in office, Senator Schumer was a majority leader, we never had one shutdown. Now, the reason is when we were negotiating things and we got close, but we weren't there yet, and we ran into the deadline of the government shutting down, we would pass what are called short-term continuing resolutions to keep the government open and keep negotiating. Senator Schumer said in 2019 that defunding DHS, which is what they're doing now, would, quote, hurt TSA, hurt Border Patrol, hurt FBI agents, air traffic controllers, food safety inspectors, Coast Guard members. They deal with our security right now. So if you believe in the security of America, vote yes to fund Homeland Security. I'm quoting Senator Schumer. Well, I would agree with his 2019 quote wholeheartedly. Vote yes to fund Homeland Security by keeping our country safe by all those agencies that he just mentioned. But now, again, given by far left-wing tactics and energy in the Democratic Party, anytime, and we saw this in the fall, and we're seeing it right now, that they don't get their way on an issue, they don't do what we have traditionally done, which is, all right, we're not there yet, let's compromise, let's put forward a short-term CR, let's keep the government open. They just say, let's shut down the government. So that's what we're dealing with, Mr. President. It's a real travesty. It's particularly a travesty for the TSA agents who aren't getting paid, for the Coast Guard agents who aren't getting paid and their families, for FEMA. We all have states, including especially mine, where disasters happen. We're still recovering from a big typhoon last fall. The payments going to our state for disaster relief, FEMA shut down. And Mr. President, it just doesn't have to happen. It just doesn't have to happen. We just voted again in a bipartisan way to do what the bipartisan agreement with the House and Senate was. Let's fund Homeland Security. By the way, there are reforms for FEMA in that bill. There's $2 million of de-escalation training. That's really important. There's $20 million for body cams, for ICE. And yet, for whatever reason, they don't want to fund the government during this dangerous time. I hope that there's a compromise coming forward. The rumor is that after, I think, 5 weeks, our Democrat colleagues are going to finally respond to the White House and Republicans with their ideas. But again, it's hard to say you want compromise, you want reform on ICE when you haven't put forward anything in almost 2 months. That's not negotiating in good faith. But I'm hopeful, Mr. President, this is too darn important for the safety of our citizens during a dangerous time, for the men and women of the Coast Guard who do such heroic work and are now not getting a paycheck. My Democrat colleagues need to quit listening to the far left, come to the middle, and do what we've always done, compromise and vote to fund the government.